It's Wellness Nerd Out time! How you guys doing today? Happy When Wellness Nerd Out time, you guys, and a very happy birthday to Sean Singh. Happy birthday, Sean. Love you, Arbja. We'll talk about him more at the end. No, this one's absolutely for you before we even get started. But let's get into our discussion of the day. And that is about how to lose weight quick, lose weight fast. Is there a magic pill? Is there a magic formula? It's like, whoa, these are really big words here, you know? Lose weight fast. A lot of us are very interested in that. Not all types of weight loss are created equal in terms of your health, right? A lot depends on your body composition. Do you have a lot of lean muscle mass? Are you like a skinny fat person, right? Do you care how all of your organs are functioning, how your hormones are being released, how your mood will be, how your sex drive will be? All these different players are involved, right? But when you talk about simply losing weight, well, being in a calorie deficit really is the biggest thing in terms of pure weight loss. All other factors, not being considered here, right? Which we will consider here in a moment. But in general, a great example they always use, the Twinkie guy, right? He ate just Twinkies for it was like weeks or something. He lost weight, and I don't know exactly how many he ate, but it was like a 4 a day or something like that. But the point is, yeah, it's terrible for you. Yeah, it's full of sugar, refined processed carbs. It's awful. But if he only had 500 calories worth of Twinkies every day, and he was burning 2,000, 1,500 calories in a day, he's in a deficit. He's going to lose weight. He's going to lose weight, right? Regardless of what you're eating. And we don't recommend that here at Wend Wellness. I think that's extremely unhealthy, and I would never advocate anybody to do such a thing. But just want you to realize the principle of you have to burn more than you're eating. It's that simple, just about, in terms of losing weight. Now, how to do it while having a good mood, right? How to do it while being able to physically perform well, right? And to look healthy, to have a good complexion, to have good lean mass, right? For it to not take a toll on the rest of your life, to not be stressed out all the time, right? Which in itself also, is something that could promote putting on fat, the stress in itself. So when we're going through this change in our lifestyle and diet to try to burn fat and to try to lose weight, we have to remember not to stress ourselves out too much unless these forms of stress are healthy in exercise or intermittent fasting, for example, right? Because these unhealthy stressors promote the release of cortisol, and then we're going to be storing this fat over time and not releasing as much testosterone and yada, yada, yada. So, boom, that's all well and good. Where do we start, right? So with intermittent fasting, let's kind of start there. I think it's a simple way that we can lose weight relatively quickly. And when I say quickly, I'm not saying, within a couple days. Nobody should dive into extreme long-term fasts of, say, 72 hours when you're used to eating normally every day, throughout the day. You're going to be stressed out. It's not going to work for you. You're going to need to binge eat at some point to make up for the mental deficits, everything you're having. So definitely don't do that. When we talk about fasting, most purported benefits in terms of losing weight, they come due to the fact that you are mobilizing fat stores, right? You're mobilizing energy stores after a certain number of hours, and now they're showing that minimum number of hours generally is seen to be about 18 hours into the fast. You'll start to mobilize your fat stores, right? And they had said 16 and things like that in the past. General consensus, 18 is a pretty safe bet now for when you'll get started on that. So what does that mean, right? That means if I was going to be fasting for 18, I could fast for 5 before bed, 5 after bed, and then sleep for 8 hours. 8 in the 10, 18. There you go, just like that. 5 before bed, 5 after bed, you don't eat. All right? That's hours, of course. And with other benefits, we've talked about, releasing more growth hormone. We'll talk about testosterone here in a second. But improving insulin sensitivity, of course, we've talked about with fasting. And another one's lowering blood pressure. They show a 24-hour fast to have significant benefit in lowering blood pressure and improving overall insulin sensitivity, glycemic control, overall glycemic control in general with 24 hours. All right. Now, am I gonna lose strength? Am I gonna lose muscle mass if I start fasting and working out? Well, they show that individuals going through resistance training while doing prolonged fasts, and we're talking, up to say 20 hours in a day, 22 hours in a day, again, which we wouldn't jump into, and we say we'll start at that 18 mark, right? But if you're doing these prolonged fasts, or you're just having one meal a day, the OMAD form of time-restricted feeding, right, which really 24 is time-restricted feeding, right, the 18-6, these are all just restricting your eating to the latter numbers window of hours, right? So at 24, you're eating for only the 4 hours, right? These forms of time-restricted feeding in concert with resistance training show no loss in muscle mass or strength. So you can keep the good stuff and lose the bad stuff, right? Lose the excess belly fat and things like that with fasting and exercising in a fasted state. It's absolutely fantastic for you. And I can live by that. I've done it myself, and I've had great success with this. All right. When we talk about people that shouldn't fast, type 1 diabetics, pregnant women, and people with pre-existing eating disorders should not be fasting. All right, or at least consult your doctor before you're going to do it. See what stage you're at with everything going on. But definitely, if you're pregnant or you're a child, they don't have as many studies on children. I wouldn't recommend any children to be fasting. They're growing. Let them just go through life naturally and let them eat when they're hungry. Right? This is more for adults. Right? And there aren't as many studies on the elderly with fasting either. But, having said that, this is for the vast majority of people who will be watching these videos who are looking to lose weight, that fall into these age demographics of, say, past 18 or 20 years old, before 60, right? So when we talk about time-restricted feeding versus general calorie restriction, what's the difference? And what are some side effects? What are some side effects of fasting for if you're someone who's never done it before we even get into that? You could get, people have reported minor headaches, of course, hunger, slight dizziness, and GI upset. In other words, your stomach hurts and you're hungry. Well, no kidding. You haven't eaten for a certain number of hours and you're used to eating all day. Now, for me, when I first started, it was difficult, but I got used to it and I slowly increased the amount of time that I was fasting for every day. Now I can go 20 hours, 22 hours without eating, and I don't even think twice about it. I don't feel hungry at all. I don't crave anything, and when I eat, I make sure I really fill myself up so I'm not in a calorie deficit so far that my body is stressed out for the rest of the day when I'm not eating, and now I'm starving before I go to bed and things like that. So when we talk about time-restricted feeding versus fasting, one of the biggest differences is hormone optimization, right? So we said it's as simple for losing weight, just eating less, right? And of course there's differences in body composition, right? If you're going to be working out and eating less and things like that, or you just want to purely lose weight. What about releasing testosterone? We know that generally releasing more testosterone or growth hormone, they promote burning fat, building lean muscle mass, right? Generally good for a body composition type memo, right? And studies show that time-restricted feeding in healthy males with, say, prolonged fasting periods of 20 hours, 18, 20 hours, the OMAD 1 meal a day for, say, an hour or 2 hours, generally increase luteinizing hormone levels and hence testosterone levels. But this is actually the opposite in obese men. They get lower testosterone levels with elongated time periods of fasting. And that's really interesting to me because I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, where if you're doing something like this, but you're stressing your body out and it's a drastic change for you at once, it's not going to work. It's not going to work right. You're going to end up being more stressed out, producing less testosterone, less growth hormone, right? And you're going to put on more fat in the long run and just have a terrible time. So I think this explains a lot here, where it's a drastic change for somebody obese to not eat for a prolonged period of time. maybe they start with, a very short window of fasting and then, work their way up way shorter than the average person. But in healthy males, it seemed to work right away in terms of boosting luteinizing hormone and testosterone did intermittent fasting. So, interesting stuff there, and some food for thought going forward. When we talk about time-restricted feeding, when we talk about calorie restriction in general, a big issue with calorie restriction is overworking yourself and undereating. Overworking yourself and then undereating, and really whether you're fasting or not, but here we're just talking about general calorie restriction throughout the day. Say you're eating all day, just less than you normally would, and yeah, you should lose weight if you're doing that, right? If you're burning more calories than you're taking in. But this showed a reduction, resistance training with undereating in people that just generally try to lower their calorie count. It showed a reduction in luteinizing hormone and testosterone levels. And it's not to say that that's the only thing involved in fat burning or anything like that, but it is indicative of the fact that maybe it's not so healthy for you. It isn't promoting proper, physiological regulation and hormonal regulation in the body to optimize your muscle and fat levels, right? Via optimizing hormone levels. So, that's something to be said where, again, if we're jumping into something like this, we don't want to get stressed out, and it actually have deleterious effects on us rather than help us just lose weight and have a better life. So what do? Here I think is the best way to start. Like I said before, you're a person that eats normally throughout the day. You want to burn fat and you want to maintain some muscle mass. You want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to mentally perform well, okay? Well, fasting has been shown to improve mental performance over time, promoting autophagy, right? We know that autophagy or autophagy, the breakdown of those old dysfunctional mitochondria, the removal of less functional neurons, even the degradation of plaques between neurons in the brain, which I don't know that we talked about one day, but one of the reasons it reduces your risk for developing neurodegenerative disease as intermittent fasting is that very fact. Just making you mentally sharper. Your body, your brain and body are cleaning house with intermittent fasting. So if you want to optimize all of this, as we're saying, 5 hours before you go to sleep tonight, don't eat. Sleep 8 hours. I hope you're sleeping that at least. You wake up, don't eat for another 5. Okay? That shouldn't be too bad. Even if you're someone that is used to eating all day, that shouldn't be too bad, I would think, right? And if it is, and you're real stressed out doing it, then, you can message me, call me. I would be happy to talk to you, figure out some way to get you to lose some weight that, will not really mess up your whole life, change your whole life and your whole regimen, right? But if you can do that, and I think most of you will be able to, then what we'll do the next week, we'll do that for a whole week. You'll just do that, all right? It's pretty simple. The next week, add an hour onto the fasting time. And if you can, add an hour before bed and after you wake up. So if you could add 2 hours per day total, at least within a 24-hour period, like we're saying, not eating 6 hours before bed, then sleeping 8 hours, then not eating 6 hours after bed. Now you've added another 2 hours. All of a sudden, you're at 20 hours of fasting. And you can eat the whole rest of the day. You can eat those other 4 hours. That would be just after a week. You're already at a 24. 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating. That's really quick. And this was titled Lose Weight Fast. So this isn't for somebody that just wants to go into this like, over a long time, I just want to get healthier. This is someone who's like, I got a wedding coming up. I need to drop weight. I got to fit in my dress. Whatever, I got to look good. I just want to do something quick. I'm ready, but I don't want it to be too extreme that I'm going to go crazy. My body's going to go nuts. Well, this is a pretty solid way. And on top of that fasting regimen with these numbers of eating and not eating, these hours, work out in a fasted state. Work out before you eat. Work out before you eat. And work out towards the latter end of your fast. So if you're not eating, now it's week 2, you're not eating 6 hours before bed. You wake up, you're in your fourth hour of that fast after waking, then go work out. You could work out right when you wake up. Of course, a lot of this depends on your schedule. You know, we all work. We have things going on. If you have a 9 to 5, it's not that simple. You can't just do all this, right? The fasting you can do, the hours in themselves, but with exercise, you want to do it one way or another in a fasted state, all right? To optimize the effects of burning as much fat as you possibly can and gaining lean muscle mass, all right? Now, when you eat, it's super, super important you're eating whole foods, everything you find in nature. We always say if you can't find it, kill it, extract it from nature. Yeah, I'm beating a dead horse. I say it all the time. If you can't find it in nature, you probably shouldn't be having it. The same goes for those of us how we're eating with this intermittent fasting. During that, whether it's a 4 or 6 hour period in week 1, say you've been fasting 18, eating 6. Those 6 hours, you're eating good, protein-dense foods, right? Because more protein promotes fat loss. We had a whole video on that. If you want to watch it, go back. We're not going to get into it now. But more protein promotes fat loss as well, right? So optimizing hormone levels, having plenty of protein, working out in a fasted state. And the biggest thing is that you can start today. Now, what time of the day, if I'm going to get to the point where I'm doing 1 meal a day, the OMAD, time-restricted feeding, what time of day should I eat? Should I eat late at night, early in the morning? Studies show improved insulin sensitivity generally in the earlier hours of the day. So in the morning, we have improved insulin sensitivity, says, all right, maybe I would be better off having my 1 meal in the morning, right? Now, having said that, you're fasting a certain number of hours after you've woken up. So for me, and not to mention if you eat in the morning, what's going to happen? One, it's not conducive with, social tendencies of when we would eat, right? If you want to be hanging out with people, having dinner with family, a lot of, talk about how much of our culture is based around sitting around the dinner table, eating together and talking and hanging out, whatever it is, we generally have those times together when we're eating either at lunch or majorly at night, okay? So it's tough in that sense for a lot of people to eat solely earlier in the day. That's one. Two, and what I think aside from any cultural differences or difficult, things with when you be hanging out with people, whatnot, aside from all that, you're going to be hungry at night. You're going to be hungry late at night. You eat early in the day, you're going to be starving before you go to bed. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be like, oh man, I know I was talking to Shane about this whole thing and this is great, but I can't even think and I can't fall asleep. I'm so damn hungry. So I'm just going to eat a little snack. A little snack isn't going to hurt me, right? Well, now you're screwing everything up, right? You can't have anything with calories when you're fasting. It's not, because we're trying to optimize hormone release here. It's not just as simple as the calorie deficit, right? And we just spoke of the difference with general calorie deficit and time-restricted feeding, right? But there's a lot of debate. There's very hot debate all over the place about how many calories you can have. If you can have MCT oil, if you can have, whatever. You can have your lemon juice and you can have your apple cider vinegar and things like that when you're fasting. As a rule of thumb, general rule of thumb, black coffee, black tea, water, and seltzer, straight seltzer water. All fine during your fast, okay? As a general rule of thumb, nothing with more than 5 to 10 calories. So really, in essence, yeah, you can go to Starbucks and get a black coffee, purely black. That's fine. It's going to have 5 to 10 calories, whatever. That's okay, But if again, there's a lot of debate on it. So some things say 60 calories or less, 30 calories or less is okay. Some say, you can have these certain things, maybe even things with artificial sweeteners that don't promote insulin release, right? But as a fair general rule of thumb, eat things that are all natural and have things that have 5 to 10 calories or no calories, right? So again, black coffee, black tea, seltzer, and regular water, all right? So where is that eating window going to be, right? Back to that, if you're getting to OMAD, 1 meal a day, which eventually is what we're looking to progress to here. Week 1, we fasted 5 hours before bed and 5 after we woke up. We slept for 8 hours. We were at 18. Week 2, we fasted for 6, slept 8, fasted for another 6 in the morning. We're at 20. So now, I would say, do that again week 3, maybe even week 4. 20 hours of fasting is a lot for somebody that is used to eating regularly, okay? You jumped from 18. Your first week may have been difficult at 18. And if your first week was very difficult at 18, go another week with 18. You don't need to change it yet. Or go to 19. Just add a half hour onto the fasting window before bed and a half hour after you wake up. That's fine. But we have to make sure you're not very stressed out. Everybody's a unique case. You're a unique situation. If you really are serious about losing weight, you can't do something that's unrealistic. All right? It's not gonna last. It's gonna become like a New Year's resolution. So I'm trying to tell you some legitimate way that you can make this happen pretty fast. All right? So now when you get to the point where you're really comfortable with that 20-hour fast, we're getting to the point where, all right, maybe I'm ready for a 21, a 22, and what I can do is just eat one meal a day. That meal doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It could be over 2 hours, over 2.5 hours, right? And so when you're eating, again, you have to make sure you're really filling yourself up. You're really filling yourself up with good quality food, high in protein, healthy, unsaturated fats, even, a lot of animal meat, lean chicken breast, steak, fish, a lot of fish. And when you're getting your carbs, high in soluble fiber, get those dark leafy greens, right? If you're having carbs, make sure again, they're bringing something to the table, that you're not having just these simple sugars, these nothing processed, right? You're not having any empty calories, no soda. You're not wasting your calories on stuff like that. Everything has bang for its buck calorie-wise, right? And make sure you're having a lot of protein. I keep emphasizing that because not having enough protein is maybe the number one way that almost everyone, so many people I've talked to that are trying to lose weight and are unsuccessful, that they're like, well, I'm working out too, I don't know what's going on. They're not having enough protein, and they're not burning enough fat, and their body is stressed out. They're not producing as much testosterone, like we said, overworking and undereating. No bueno. Producing less luteinizing hormone and testosterone, for example, again, right? So you got to really make sure you are satisfying yourself during those fasting hours. And when you get to the point where you're doing the OMAD, the 1 meal a day, again, you can spread that meal over 2.5 hours. Why not? You're fasting for 21 and a half. You get the 2.5 hour fast. So that's plenty of time to be fasting, especially if you're doing it every day. All right. And just stay consistent with it. And make sure you get a wide variety of nutrients as well when you eat, because you're not going to be eating for such a long period of time. You don't want to be skipping out on certain things and all of a sudden you're suffering vitamin nutrient deficiencies because of that. So, that's pretty much where we're at here today. And the last thing I'll say, the reason I said maybe over 2.5 hours with the OMAD is because, we can only absorb so much at once. Your body will adapt to absorb and make use of more at once if you go through fasting. That happened to me firsthand. I was able to get through so much more food at once, and without feeling stuffed. You might say your stomach will shrink at first. Oh, I can't eat as much, and that's even more of a reason to eat and then give yourself those 30 minutes and then eat again, because you're going to get hungry again. You could only eat so much at once, and if you just really were super technical to that 1 meal a day at that point, and when you reach this level at OMAD, you're only eating so much in 30 minutes, right? Or an hour that you would, 30 minutes is probably a normal meal, I guess, right? If that. And then you're going to be starving later in the day. So that doesn't make sense. You need to be fully satisfied. By the end of your eating window, you need to be fully satisfied, okay? So that's another thing you cannot forget aside from the high protein intake. It's all whole foods, all natural, and you drink a lot of water before you eat, with your meal, after, and throughout the whole day, keeping yourself hydrated. And if you want to have some electrolytes without sugar as well, that would be great. You're not going to go for a Gatorade, and this is during your fast, right? This is during your fast. There is something called Nuun, N-U-U-N. You can look into it. I think it has like 1 gram or less of sugar. and it's like 10 calories. It might even be 15, but I've had that fasting, and it's really nice having the electrolytes, helping you get through the day. So, especially if you drink a ton of water, you don't want that electrolyte imbalance as well, right? So it was a lot today, I know, but this is something that you can do tonight. You can start now, and you know what? It honestly could change your life, and I really hope it does. I really hope it does. Let me know how it went for you, those of you who were doing it, and let's see who we got on here. And then we are going to be talking about a very special person. Judith, how you doing? Baked Joyler, how you doing? Simply Styling. What's up, Donna? How you doing? Thanks for hopping on. And Lucas, what's up, brother? How you doing, baby? I'll call you in a minute. So before we go, I want to say happy birthday, Sean. Happy birthday, Arpjob, man. This one is 100% for you. And when I think of you, I think of moving into my dorm at Stony Brook University when I was 18 years old, not knowing anybody there. And I show up, and it's you and Deep in my room. And at first I saw it as, we may have some cultural differences coming from different backgrounds. And I quickly, not that I judged it, but naturally, and I quickly realized that you guys were going to be my brothers for life. You guys were great. And such genuine people, both of you. But we're talking about you today, so Deep, we're going to hold off on you for a minute here. But you're such a genuine guy, man. Even to this day, I don't know how many people could say this. The person you lived with for your first semester, trimester, whatever in college, do they still contact you regularly? Because Sean does. He still contacts me. Yeah, I love you, dude. That's amazing, And I really hope I get to see you soon. I know you're doing great. You've always been a super bright guy. I have no doubt in my mind you're absolutely crushing life right now. I know you're crushing it. And, I want you to know, man, 100,000%. This is forever your day in the book of Wend Wellness. So a very, very happy birthday to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Spent it with some people you love, doing something you love. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. That's all we got for you as for now, and we'll see you tomorrow. Happy Wend Wellness. Thank you so much.